We are live for day two of a Senior Bowl recap from Mobile, Alabama. There are some big time risers coming out of the Senior Bowl. Mike Green is a name that is making a lot of noise in NFL circles, but that's not just the only name out here that you got to pay attention to. There have been multiple players who have risen since yesterday, and a couple have taken a step back. So we'll kind of dive into what those players are and see who could be available for the 49ers. I mean, John Lynch has been front and center for a lot of these drills. And he spent a lot of today talking with Mike Tomlin. Just curious to see what John Lynch is thinking about all of these players and everything from the Senior Bowl. Well, we'll talk about some of the players that stood out to me and I thought could be a good fit for the San Francisco 49ers. Drop an SDS in the chat, smash that like button, and let's talk about it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What's going down, guys? I'm sure any of you guys who have been following along the Senior Bowl coverage saw the rep today that Mike Green had on Connerly, the Oregon tackle. It was a phenomenal rep where he sent him flying. You saw the speed to power, and Mike Green is really uh, making some waves here in Mobile. And, you know, he was the first prospect that I have posted about this offseason. Typically, I even wait to post prospects until the season is over. But this was a guy that I posted on December 11th because I couldn't wait any longer. I knew the hype for Mike Green would be next level, and you can see the twitch. And when he's out here performing against some of the top players in the league or heading into the league, you can see how that is translating. So um, there's been a lot of good players out here, but Mike Green has absolutely stepped up for sure. And not only that, but I've had a big focus on the trenches, just really trying to hone in on who the 49ers are going to potentially target on the offensive line and defensive line. So I've been watching every one-on-one rep, and when we're watching team period, really locked in on the offensive line. I'm sure a name you've heard is North Dakota State, Gray Zabel. I talked about him yesterday. He came back and had yet again another phenomenal practice with some of these smaller school guys. One of the things that I want to see is, can they do it consistently? Can they stack days, and can they come back and have a good practice? And that's exactly what he did. One of the things with Gray Zabel is it's almost like a confidence that within a rep, there's a lot of things happening. Defensive linemen are throwing all kinds of moves at you. First, you got to determine, is he bull rushing me? Is he going to go with outside speed, or is he going to try to hit me with a setup to a counter move? There's a lot of things going through an offensive lineman's head in a one-on-one rep because you're on an island. You're getting no help. And so sometimes you can be sped up as an offensive lineman, kind of get in your head and bite on a move. But one of the things that stands out with Gray Zabel is just kind of his patience. The way he's able to kind of just be patient, the confidence comes through, and he's really hard to get by. When he gets his hands on you, he's able to lock out, drop his hips, and he has really good feet, good base. So Gray Zabel is earning a lot of money here at the Senior Bowl. It'll be interesting to see where he goes when it's all said and done. Um, I mean, I think he's solidifying himself as a day two pick. if he can jump up to potentially being a fringe first rounder, that would be something that wouldn't surprise me. But Gray Zabel is absolutely stepping up today. Some other guys that have stood out to me were Oluwafemi Oladejo, the UCLA edge. I talked about him a little bit yesterday as someone who intrigued me. Wasn't really familiar with him heading into the Senior Bowl, but when you kind of watch him and you get a look at him, you can see the athletic frame and build right away. It's one of the first thing that stands out. And then when you see him on the field, you see the athleticism. It just jumps out at you. And one of the interesting things is actually Johnny spoke to him and mentioned that he is transitioning from a linebacker like a Mike linebacker to edge. So he's new to edge, and you could have fooled me. He already looks like he fits into that role. He's kind of a tweener, kind of twitched up edge, but he is already showing that he has some potential to be a decently effective edge rusher. So the kid out of UCLA, number 99, has really been kind of standing out to me. Um, there have been guys that I think had better practices today than yesterday. Jaw Joyner out of Minnesota, edge, the size. One of my favorite reps was him setting up outside speed and countering inside on a one-on-one rep. He's actually playing really well. So Jaw Joyner's a name that's standing out to me on the defensive line. David Walker continues to stand out, Central Arkansas edge. Um, if you want to think of like a player comp, he reminds me of Samson Ebukam because when you look at Samson Ebukam's frame, he's not a big guy. I think Samson might have been like 6'1", 250 pounds. He wasn't a very large guy, but he was able to be decently effective in the pass rush. And when I look at David Walker out of Central Arkansas, kind of reminds me of that same frame, same build, same motor. So he could be a very interesting prospect. Maybe he's a day three guy. We'll see. But David Walker is definitely an interesting prospect. Um, Junior Tafuna, Utah defensive lineman. He continues to show his power on the interior. He's probably going to be a day three guy, but he might be a guy that could be a solid rotational player in the league. So excited to see what he can do. And number 9, Darius Alexander, Toledo defensive lineman. He originally stood out to me yesterday, and I really wanted to see what he could build on from today. And Darius Alexander, he looks like a guy, man. He's going up against some big time tackles here that are probably going to go day two, and he's been able to stack some solid reps and win some good ones. And you can kind of see a little bit of both. He's not super twitched up, but he's got good power and he's got good moves. And really excited with what I've seen from him. So he's going to be a guy that I continue to watch throughout this process for sure. So it's been a lot of fun watching these guys in the trenches. I thought Anthony Belton had a pretty decent day. Wasn't necessarily a huge jump up from what he did yesterday, but I thought it was a maybe little bit of a step back, but overall still performed at a decently high level. All things considered, I think Wyatt Millum, his stock, I thought he was going to be a riser in this whole situation. And actually, I think he's significantly dropping his stock. I mean, doesn't even really, just doesn't even really look that great as an offensive lineman. And then when you see him on the field, he's getting beat quickly. And it's been consistent now for 2 days. So I was expecting a lot more from him. So he's kind of been a guy that's dropped down, but there's still plenty of guys who have been going up. I think Caleb Rogers, Texas Tech, offensive lineman, has looked pretty solid. Um, Irsay, the Minnesota offensive lineman's looked solid at times. Connerly had a rough day today, especially with that rep um, against Mike Green. But hey, that happens. One of the interesting things was Walter Nolan left practice today, so it looked like he was injured, doing something. He walked into the locker room, so that will be something to monitor. It didn't look like it was anything serious, but I imagine if you're getting banged up here at the Senior Bowl, you're not gonna overextend yourself too much and potentially injure yourself more. So that's something to monitor. But I do think Walter Nolan has kind of solidified himself as being a legitimate first round prospect, most likely going to be a top 15 guy. And I do think Walter Nolan is firmly in the conversation for the 49ers at 11 potentially. Um, he's twitched up, man. He really can get after it. And one of the things that I really wanted to see from him is how he holds up in the run game. And he has a great ability to split double teams. It's a skill. It's hard to do, especially when you got two 300-pound guys trying to push you off the line of scrimmage. He does a phenomenal job of getting skinny and ripping through the center of them. So he's proven to me that he's just not a third down situational pass rusher. To me, he looks like a guy who can play all three downs and be a force and actually present an impact not only in the rush game but or I should say as a pass rusher but also as a run stuffer. So Walter Nolan to me has kind of solidified himself. I'm curious to see if he's going to play in the game or what that injury looks like. We didn't see Norman Lott today, the Tennessee defensive tackle. He was a guy that I really liked, but I think T.J. Sanders looked pretty decent. Cameron Jackson, massive defensive tackle out of Florida. He played pretty well. I think Shamar Stewart, the defensive end from Texas A&M, he continues to rise. I think his size, like he's huge, and he really knows how to use his power. Um, he's a pretty solid prospect. So Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M edge, I thought looks really good. Kyle Kennard looks good. Jared Ivey, Ole Miss edge, he looked pretty solid as well. And then Jackson Slater continues to perform really well in in one-on-ones. I do think that Zabel right now has the jump on Jackson Slater. All right, we're back. Apologies about that. Um, so, anyways, where were we? We were talking about. trenches, guys who are standing out to me. Emory Jones, LSU offensive lineman, I think played well today too. So I think Jonah Sabania, the Arizona offensive lineman, who I actually liked heading into the Senior Bowl, I actually think he's taken steps back. He had a rough day today. So it's not great for everyone out here, but for the most part, a lot of guys that I like. I think kind of switching gears from the trenches, a guy who stands out to me, Upton Stout, Western Kentucky cornerback. Probably profiles best as a slot corner at the NFL, but he looks like a guy who would fit what the 49ers are looking for. Kind of a K1 Williams throwback kind of a guy. So he could definitely be an option for the 49ers potentially. So Upton Stout has been performing pretty well at the cornerback position. I'm not gonna lie, I've been pretty locked into the trenches, but Jack Betch out of TCU, he's probably been one of the better wide receivers here. It's a weird comp, but he kind of reminds me of Anquan Bolden. Again, weird comp. Um, but I actually watched Jack Betch at Stanford versus TCU. It was the first college game I covered this year, and he was the one who stood out to me the most. I had no idea who he was. Didn't even know if he was draft eligible or any of that. So stood out to me early on in the season, and then he's coming out here and performing well. So he's a guy. Arian Smith out of Georgia has looked solid at times. Um, Dyke, wide receiver out of Florida, made a solid catch over the top. Um, so it's been a good day, and I really like some of the tight ends on the American roster. Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech, Mason Taylor out of LSU. Mason Taylor to me seems like he could be developed into a pretty solid tight end. I know he isn't known for his blocking, but I do think that he could absolutely take strides, especially you get him in a room with George Kittle. I could absolutely see um, that being a big positive. But Mason Taylor's just an athlete. And if you don't, Jason Taylor's son, the legendary edge for Florida. Um, so I really like the tight end group has some good guys. Harold Fannin Jr. Looks really good as a route runner. Elijah Arroyo looks really good as a route runner, and Terrence Ferguson even looks pretty good. Tez Johnson looks unguardable out here. So although I am very focused on the trenches, there are some skill positions that are standing out. Marcus Yarns, Delaware running back. I don't know if the 49ers are going to be looking at him, but he's definitely a guy that has stood out to me throughout these practices. Um, Jeffrey Bassa, the Oregon linebacker, moves exceptionally well. I really like what he's doing. Um, the Utah linebacker, Reed, is an intriguing prospect to me. So I'm excited to kind of get into his tape and see what he looks like. Um, but he moves really well and looks like a really good athlete. So I'm curious to see what he looks like on tape. Another name, Aeneas Peebles. He's just a good player, man. He's going to get knocked for his size, but he's a good player. Knight has been decent. Knight looks like he's a better run defender than kind of coverage guy. But again, tape will bear that out better. But he's been flying all over the field. Knight's been, you can see kind of the east to west speed that he's got. He's been pretty solid. So there's definitely some players that I think fit the mold of what the 49ers are looking for. So it's going to be fascinating to see which route they go. I did say what's up to John Lynch. He was chilling over here on the sideline after one of the media availabilities where we can all go on the field. He was over there chopping it up with another coach. But he's had his nose in the middle of it, along with R.J. Gillum and Tariq Ahmad. They've been all over the place. So the 49ers are well represented here. They've got multiple coaches. KJ Wright's been coaching the defensive ends. So Mike Green, he's been coaching Mike Green and that whole group. So I feel like the 49ers for sure are going to have this covered when it comes to identifying players that they like. I mean, they're going to have great knowledge from boots on the ground, from how they're coached to, John Lynch and, the front office staff just literally front row watching it all. It was pretty cool to see John Lynch and Mike Tomlin chopping it up today, watching practice. You could tell John Lynch is such a football guy. You could just see like when football guys get around competition and get around football, you can just see the body language start to change, the energy start to change. So that was pretty fun to see. But another good day here at the Senior Bowl. Tons of prospects that I think will absolutely fit what the 49ers are looking for. And we'll see. We'll see if the 49ers draft any of them. Taylor Elgersma, he's looked okay. I would say the quarterbacks have been all right. Riley Leonard made a phenomenal throw today. Things were kind of moving all over the place. Pocket was kind of collapsing. He kind of had to step up and kind of sidearm and fit it through this keyhole in between the O-line and D-line, and he just kind of threw it right in there. I thought it was a pretty solid throw. There's been some good throws, but like I said, I also haven't been watching the quarterbacks like that. I'm fully entrenched in the trenches here. Alec Parker says, "Is Mike Green at 11 a reach, or what?" I mean, I've if you guys have heard me kind of talk about Mike Green throughout this process, even before we got to the Senior Bowl, to me he reminds me of Brian Burns. I've talked about that, and Brian Burns went 16 overall. I think Brian Burns has better measurables in regards to height and arm length, but I think Mike Green possesses some good qualities. At 11, I think it'll be really interesting to see once we get through the combine to really see where his stock is. But I fully believe, like when I first saw him on tape in December, I was like, this guy's going to be a mid-first round draft pick. So the fact that we're now talking about him as a first-round draft pick, again, not a surprise to me. You could see it right away. That kind of twitch, elite twitch, is going to be enticing for some team. So will they take him early? I don't know. 11 could be a spot. Maybe he could be a trade back candidate potentially. Maybe drop back, handful of spots, pick him up. But he could definitely be an option there. Yes. Great. Thank you. I forgot to mark him. Where is my Bayron Sorrell? He has actually been playing really well. I agree. He should be talked about more. He shows really good speed, and he has good moves. So yes, I agree. Sorrell needs to be talked about more. He had a good practice today. He's definitely he showed some flashes yesterday that I noticed, but I felt like today he definitely took a step forward. He played pretty well. Um, Walter Nolan for sure feels like at least the guy here that could definitely be the option at 11. We'll see if that's the case. Um, but at least, I mean, he has, like I said, for me, he needed to prove that he was a three down player, and he's done that, and he's proven that he can excel in the run game. Um, he's kind of a smaller defensive tackle, but he's got the power, he's got the strength, and he's got the technique, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. So he could definitely be an option at 11. It all depends on if 49ers see him as a fit and culture fit and all that type of stuff. But we'll see. I think, and I also think he's a 49er fan because he follows a lot of 49ers players. I think he even follows the 49ers. But I do think Walter Nolan, low key, is a 49er fan. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind that either. I already mentioned some of the tight ends. Um, I don't know. I like Mason Taylor as a developmental tight end. He might not be a finished product right now, but I like his skill set and I like what upside he could potentially offer. So I like Mason Taylor. Um, a lot of people like Arroyo here. I feel like the guy that the 49ers probably like is Jackson Hawes, the Georgia Tech tight end. He had a really nice one-handed catch today, kind of out in the flat. The ball was high, and he was able to bring it in and turn upfield. So Jackson Hawes definitely feels like more of a 49er type tight end guy who comes from Georgia Tech. They're known for running the ball there. So, um, but there's a couple good tight ends. You kind of have a little bit of everything. Um, he was playing fullback. Well, there you go. But he moves well. He's not like a super flashy runner or whatever, but you can tell he moves decently well. So I'm curious to see how he tests at the combine. If he could be a 4-5 guy, any of these tight ends running the 4-5s, low 4-6s, it's kind of what you want to see. So, but overall, another good day here at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to get out of here for now, but I appreciate all you guys for tapping in and following along. I'm out. Peace.